I became popular in StarCraft Chapter 221-230. Thank you for everyone who pressed like and followed. It's an encouragement for each other. I apologize for the translation. You can donate at Kasi Corn Bank 025-352-0310. Then let's start. Chapter 221 List. She just finished dealing with a few small fish who were responsible for catching people. When those people left, she had secretly imprinted their spiritual consciousness on them, and solved the problem easily. Sorry, Xiao Shi. I'll treat you to dinner later. Chu Yao's hands brushed the heads of several people. It wasn't that she couldn't trust Xiao Shi, but as a monk, she naturally knew the methods of monks. It was most likely that there were traitors from the Bloody Alliance in the Steel Dome Company. If these people discovered the abnormality, it wouldn't just be a coincidence. She didn't dare to gamble, so she had to be extremely careful and not leave any traces. Under Chu Yao's secret methods, the details about her in many people's memories were edited out. They still remembered that someone had helped her, but that person turned out to be a strange and mysterious masked man. In the process of casting a spell, she finally remembered who the woman sitting next to Hikioxi was. This person was Mo Fian, the lead singer of Shining Rainbow. Mo Fian used to be a little diva-level singer in Ling Yuan Star. When Shining Rainbow Band held a concert in Xindu, she took the lead in advertising on the street. Even many of the songs stored in Chu Yao's car player were Shining Rainbow Band's songs. Unfortunately, times change and the entertainment industry is never a stable circle. Coupled with the impact of the insect plague and war, Flash Rainbow Band was forced to disband a few years ago due to economic pressure. Vision. I heard that she released a new album, but sales were not good. Plus, people are not eating enough these days. Does anyone feel like listening to music? Chu Yao felt a little emotional in her heart, and soon forgot about it. No matter how Mo Fian lives now, it has nothing to do with her. After she finished doing this, she left quietly. Everyone's eyes were still in a daze, and no one remembered that she had come here before. Chu Yao came to find Xindu Princess Ye to rest temporarily. Everything was still the same, but the person behind her was not a familiar person. Several young girls greeted her respectfully. Chu Yao waved her hand, signaling that she would go to the dark underground room to rest. This matter had been settled, and she finally had time to check the results of this trip. Instead of rushing to open the storage bag she had received from the puppeteer, she closed her eyes and recalled everything that had happened on the way to save Hikioxi, without leaving out every detail. After making sure that she had not left her tail behind, Chu Yao removed the puppet master's storage bag from her waist. There was a puppet master's consciousness seal on it, but I died, and the seal was much weaker. To the shock in Chu Yao's hands and mind, the seal was released, and the things inside fell to the floor of the quiet room. What caught her eye were the guns and bullets, as well as cash and credit cards. Chu Rumors was familiar with these things, and she wanted to get something more valuable. In the bullet magazines all over the floor, she found something extraordinary. The most eye-catching of these were two spirit-locking matrices, which were larger than the ones she had snatched from the previous two. Their grades were high. Chu Yao wanted to experiment, so she lightly pressed the switch with her left hand. The result shocked her. The feeling was the same as when she first touched the magic stone. This was originally made of magic stones. Could this be an enlarged and upgraded version of the thing that Yalai Company used to block the sect? She was becoming more and more curious about magic stone technology. One day, I will make a contract with the magic stone mine and study it carefully. Next were 2 pairs of jade slips. Speaking of which, Chu Yao had received similar jade slips before, and they were still buried deep in her storage bag at the front of the large military formation in Baishan Mine. Unfortunately, the jade slips were nothing special. They recorded a very ordinary qi refining spell, a level of water condensation, so she ignored them after glancing at them. The 2 pairs in front of me were different. Chu Yao first picked up the jade slip near her right hand, and around it, there were 8 small puppets lying quietly. Chu Yao's face showed a look of delight. She really had a good idea. This was a type of puppet art called Golden Manju, which not only included the methods of making and managing these puppets, but also helped to cultivate spiritual consciousness. As for the second pair of jade slips, it was called Earth Coffin, a magical technique used by puppet masters to summon 4 giant stone hands to try to restrain Chu Yao. Tisk, I thought this person still had some housekeeping skills, but it turned out that these two tricks. In the past, Chu Yao definitely wouldn't like such a golden elixir technique, but now, no matter which resource was in short supply, adding a little more could be considered as increasing the inventory for the Tianyan sect in the future. Even if you don't use it yourself, it's good for juniors to practice. Is there anything else good? Let me see. Chu Yao rummaged through the trinkets on the floor, when suddenly a bright red light lit up. The immense spiritual power shocked Chu Yao. This was suppressed under the puppet, that was why she didn't notice it at first. Chu Yao opened her mouth in surprise, and with trembling hands pushed the puppets away, and took out 3 bright red stones from under them. My mother! The best spirit stones! 3 coins too! Chu Yao had a temporary mental disability due to excitement. Helping He was just a matter of convenience, but she didn't expect to receive such a big result from a wrong turn. The peak spirit stones she asked for, she suddenly found 3 pieces in the puppeteer's storage bag. What is this? This is not just spirit stones. For the current Chu Yao, this is her life. Chu Yao held the 3 peak spirit stones carefully, looked at them for a long time, then took out a few boxes from her storage bag and put them in solemnly. Another thought flashed through her mind. It seems that encountering this group of blood thieves is not a bad thing. Maybe she will take the initiative to rob them. Chu Yao licked her lips excitedly. She was very satisfied with this harvest. Are there any other treasures? Don't hide them, just run to me obediently. Unfortunately, other than these, there seemed to be nothing of value. However, Chu Yao found something suspicious. Among the stacks of banknotes, she found a stack of papers that were neatly tied up, which seemed to be documents. This is a list. Chu Yao just flipped through. There were many photos and information of the children, including details of their addresses. Swaty's memories appeared in her mind. Those addresses were similar to the assassin training camp where Swaty had stayed. It was an extremely brutal training camp that turned children into assassins. Chu Yao quickly read it, and it didn't take long for the list to flip through. It seemed to point to a mysterious island in the Yaxiu Sea area of the Spirit Origin Star. The names on the list caught Chu Yao's attention. Xia Tiankaiu. I became popular in StarCraft. Chapter 222 Prelude. Xia Tiankaiu, this name sounds so familiar. Chu Yao pondered for a long time, and suddenly remembered, didn't Tiankaiu know her daughter's name? Xiaoran's husband was called Xia Qing, and Tiankaiu was the name of her 2 daughters, and her nickname was Chuer. This was really a big discovery. The daughter that Gong Xiaoran missed so much was kidnapped to such a place by a bloodthirsty alliance. Chu Yao immediately took a picture of the page with Xiao Chu written on it, then put everything away and left Princess Yat. She didn't plan to stay in Zinda too much, and Hekiasi's rescue was just a small incident. When she rushed back to the base, Gong Xiaoran couldn't sit still anymore, and was asking about the way to Yaziuhe. God knows how long she had waited for this day. As soon as Chu Yao appeared, Xiaoran stepped forward and hugged her hard, shaking her shoulders with his hand. You did a great job. Chu Yao. We must go to Yaziuhe Sea immediately. Don't stay in front, from the crowd, call me by my real name. Xiaoran, please calm down. Calm down. Yes, calm down, you must calm down, Chuer is still waiting for me, we must be ready. Chu Yao could understand Xiaoran's excitement, he reached out and patted her on the shoulder. Have you found a way? As far as I know, there are only a few ports that are still navigable. Nuclear weapons have created a desolate land. Desolate, but the seawater has not evaporated. The Yaxiu Sea on the eastern side of the third continent is a large area of the world that still exists, and there are countless small islands on it. I have confirmed the location on the satellite map according to the latitude and longitude in the list. This island should be in the center of the Yaxiu Sea. Gong Xiaoran held the phone in front of Chu Yao, and zoomed in and out on the map with his finger. It is located in the southwest corner of the main island of Yaxiu, in the middle. There are no more details on the map. It looks like a deserted island with no buildings. But now it seems that the people of the Blood Alliance have used some method to cover it up. Chu Yao nodded again and again. There are 2 ways. One is by plane, and the other is by ship. Ordinary flights cannot directly access it. The passenger terminal on the main island of Yaxiu has been destroyed by insects and has not been rebuilt. And because of the Iron Dome policy, private jets, and applying for cruises take a long time. So the best way is to take a boat. Is there a sea connecting Yaxiu Island to the third continent? Do you need to pay for a ticket? Chu Yao, in the wasteland after staying for too long, I no longer cared about the news at sea. Yes, although it is very little, but we do not need to buy a ticket. Why? Do you still remember the dozens or so fishing boats that we snatched from Zhoucheng when we were in Tianhai City? Gong Xiaoran's eyes lit up. Now, the three of them are parked at the Hixin port on the north side of the unyielding city. Chu Yao was stunned. She almost forgot about this. It turns out that our fishing industry is still going. Of course it didn't work out in the past 2 years, but now, the risk of insect disasters is very low. At the beginning of this year, we invested money to start over, and the income is also a lot. You catch insects in the wasteland every day. Of course I don't know about this. I really don't know. Chu Yao waved his hand. It was really arranged by you. When should we go? We. Gong Xiaoran was stunned. Do you want to go with me? Of course I want to go with you. Chu Yao's expression turned serious. You don't think we can bring your daughter back by taking a boat tour around Yaxiu Island, right? She pulled Xiaoran to the back corner of the base. Don't be serious about the Blood Alliance. I found 2 golden core cultivators inside when I went to Zindu today. Since the existence of this island belongs to them, it is a secret. How could other golden core cultivators not be protected? If that were the case, Gong Xiaoran, a cultivator of the establishment Foundation, would be courting death if he sent it to his door. 2 golden cores, what's the situation? You haven't told me yet. Gong Xiaoran was shocked when he heard this. So Chu Yao told her everything about chasing the murderer and facing the enemy just now. I understand. It seems that we need to be more careful. Gong Xiaoran had a sad face. We can set off tomorrow morning. I'm really worried about Chuer. I understand, but we need to be prepared. Chu Yao patted Xiaoran on the shoulder again. Let Xiaohua carefully check the sea area. Count as much as you can. Okay. Gong Xiaoran nodded with difficulty. Then let me see what I can do. Prepare more weapons. Alright, I have to go back to the cave first. There might be a fierce battle. Chu Yao quickly returned to the previous cave and told her sister the details. Do you need my help? Bai Yuejian was also worried when she heard that her sister had found her friend's daughter's whereabouts. She also went to the base from time to time and had a good relationship with the people in the company. The 2 of us have to keep one at home. Chu Yao talked, and from time to time, he would pull a few ghosts and send them to the ghost bag. Since it's just about saving people, I think the fewer people there are, the better. It would be great if we could bring Chuer back healthy. And Chu Yao paused. Whether you find it or not is another matter. She didn't tell Gong Xiaoran about some things, and Chu Yao didn't have time to tell her. She was like a brutal selection in a training camp. In Xue Dai's memory, she seemed to be only 16 when she was selected for the final assessment, which seemed to be determined by everyone's cultivation level. It had been 5 years since Xiaoran and her daughter had separated. I heard from her before that Tian Kai was 9 years old, and now she was at least 14. Xiaoqing and Xiaoran were both nascent soul cultivators, and their daughter had a natural spiritual root. If it was said that she had undergone training and qualified for the final examination at the age of 14, Chu Yao wouldn't be surprised at all. The cannibal assessment. The survivors were 1 in 100. Even if you hadn't considered this before, there were other problems, such as the list not specifying a specific year. If her memory was correct, Yaxiu Sea seemed to be one of the origins of the spiritual insect swarm. Under the insect plague, no one knew if there were still people living on this small island. It's not that you're so pessimistic. Bai Yuejian looked a little surprised. You have to try it first to know. I also don't want to. It's probably because I'm more worried about Xiaoran than Chuer. Chu Yao sighed. She always regarded her daughter as her hope for survival. If the end was bad, I really don't know what stupid things she would do. You'd better explain. This mattered to her clearly. She will always face her. Right. I will. Chu Yao nodded and continued to load bullets into the kugui bag. There was a moment of silence between the 2. Bai Yuejian pondered for a moment, then took out a monster eye that could increase consciousness from her storage bag. This journey is dangerous, and it's useless to leave this with me for now. You take it first. Okay. Chu Yao did not refuse. Also, I am still refining the formation plate. If you have time, you can take it too. At least, it will be more guaranteed. Formation plate. I became popular in StarCraft. Chapter 223 Going to the Sea. Hearing the word array, Chu Yao's body trembled. Isn't it another killing formation related to me? Perhaps no one in the world understood the power of the elder sister's moves better than Chu Yao. If there was, it was a victim of the formation. What's your expression? When did my formation ever hurt you? Bai Yujian showed disdain in his eyes. Forget it, I don't want to bother. It's a teleportation formation. It will take about 3 days to complete. She combed her hair. I copied it from the Yuxuan Secret Realms formation method, and the injection of spirit energy can be used directly. Does it sound good? Chu Yao sighed in relief. This time, it wasn't an outrageous killing. Then I'll wait for 3 more days. Chu Yao tried to fill the ghost bag while refining the magic weapon. 3 days later, it was gone. 3 days later in the morning, Bai Yuejian came to Chu Yao with a set of prepared stones. Plenty of time. Let's just say it's finished and it's useless. She stuffed the array into Chu Yao's hand. To be clear. What do you mean by barely useless? Chu Yao's eyes widened. I wanted to see if I could do point-to-point teleportation like in the secret realm. But it doesn't seem to work. Maybe it's a material problem. Does that mean it should be a pair? Chu Yao held the array disk. Yes, but don't worry, it's enough for you. The maximum limit for one teleportation is 5 people, which is enough to teleport you thousands of miles away. It can be used at least 3 times. Thousands of miles away. Chu Yao's mouth corner twitched. Random. Sister paused for a moment, you can roughly determine the direction. It should be possible. What do you mean? It should be possible? Hey, sister, are you more reliable than this? Don't bother with these details. Unless you encounter an emergency, try not to use it. If there is an emergency, I'd rather fly away. Although Chu Yao kept complaining, she still put the formation plate into her storage bag. The two bid farewell at the cave. Chu Yao found Xiao Ran at the base and got into the car. Special prepared in advance to head to the city. After passing Xindu, after a period of strict inspection, they entered the boundary of the unjust city. Speaking of which, this was the first time Chu Yao had come to the boundary of the steel dome. He had only looked at it from a distance before, but today, he finally had the chance to see its overall appearance. This city, which inherited the name of the main star of the steel dome, also inherited their style, which was rough and unadorned. Every corner of the block could feel the strong atmosphere of heavy industry and metal buildings, looking chaotic, stacked in an orderly manner, looking from a distance like a giant iron tree. Across the endless iron forest, a huge building that looked like a hammer stood tall. It was the center of Unjust City, the headquarters of the steel dome on the Spirit Origin star. Cars drove along the streets, passing by countless bustling shops, and there was an endless stream of people walking around. Compared to Xindu, which was lower to the west, the people here did not seem to be affected by the plague and the insect war. Chu Yao and the others did not stay in the Unjust City for too long, and after a quick look, they continued to head towards the Hixin port. The familiar smell of the sea wafted through the car window, and Chu Yao felt refreshed. She had seen the tiles in the sky. Today, when Sunset Bay was gone, Hixin port was the only newly opened port on the third continent. Chu Yao and Xiaoran got out of the car. She stood on the breakwater of the port. She looked at the white clouds and the sparkling waves, and took a deep breath. After being in the desert for so long, she had almost forgotten the color of the sea. Chu Yao felt that the cool sea breeze was healing her parched heart. The fishing boat under the Mao Yi flag had been waiting at the shore for a long time, and the two of them quickly boarded the ship and headed towards the distant sea with the melodious sound of sirens. There weren't many people on this trip. Counting the two, there were a total of 14 people. The two of them stood side by side on the deck, leaning against the railing and looking out at the sea. It still feels too slow. Just fly me there. Okay, as long as you're not afraid of getting shot down by Steel Dome's anti-aircraft missiles. Chu Yao and Gong Xiaoran joked, and she came over, in a good mood. Oh, I haven't seen Chua for a long time, and I don't know what she's like now. How tall is she now? Xiaoran, what I told you in the car just now. The smile on Chu Yao's face gradually disappeared. I understand. Xiaoran maintained a staring expression and said softly, as if talking to himself, I'll go. Yes, but there's One thing I have to emphasize. We're going to save your daughter, that's all. Gong Xiaoran turned her head in confusion. She didn't understand what Chu Yao meant. Of course I know. What happened? The Blood Alliance's secret measures are very good. We didn't get any particularly valuable information from Xiaohuo. Anything can happen. Don't do anything extravagant. What do you mean by that? Gong Xiaoran frowned slightly. We've been together for so long. But you still don't trust me. I didn't mean anything, I just wanted to remind you. Chu Yao still felt that what she said was a bit blunt, but the words had already been sent out, and it wasn't easy to take it back. Thank you, Chairman Chu, for reminding me. I have my own judgment. Gong Xiaoran replied curtly, then turned her head and walked into the cabin. Chu Yao pursed her lips. It was because they had been together for too long. But the two of them often quarreled, so it wasn't a big deal. When it was time to eat, we talked normally. They weren't teenagers. The dinner was very luxurious. Not only were there all kinds of rare seafood in the wilderness, but there were also some special products from the City of Injustice. Chu Yao and the crew ate with relish. Is this called a hamburger? Chu Yao looked at the food in his hand. Isn't it two big pancakes with meat and vegetables? Sister Chu, you're right. Ha 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 ha. Smiled, this is something the people from Steel Dome brought from their hometown. If you ask me, it's not as delicious as Tianhai's crackers. The crew were all Tianhai residents and used to be members of the Yutta gang under his command, but now they were all employees of the Mao Yi Company. The Mao Yi Company was running at full speed, and their income and status had also increased. Facing the legendary President Chu, they praised him wholeheartedly. These butter oysters are good. You guys are quite good at cooking. Do you want to consider changing your career? Sister Chu's words made me flatter. How could a rascal like me know how to cook? It all depends on the chef on the ship. The first mate put down the glass of water in his hand. I can't change my career. I've been at sea all my life, and I have all the skills on the ship. Chu Yao smiled and roughly said to continue the conversation. Suddenly, her eyes froze. Gong Xiaoran noticed her expression. And his consciousness spread out along the ship. Outside the restaurant, a sailor ran in a panic. Captain, it seems that something is following us underwater. I became popular in StarCraft. Chapter 224 Yu Chen. What are you so shocked about? Let's go and see. The captain led the group out of the restaurant, followed by Chu Yao and Xiao Ran. She looked at Gong Xiaoran, did you see what it is? It's not like a zerg, it's more like a shark, they should be able to deal with it. Xiao Ran pulled her consciousness back. There's nothing to do. Nowadays, in addition to watching out for storms and sharks when going out to sea, one must also watch out for the zerg in the water. However, the zerg will not attack things that are bigger than itself. Without the order of the leader, which is very similar to a shark. This is the experience that people have gained from long-term battles with the zerg, so as long as the tonnage of the seagoing ship is enough, there is no need to worry about the zerg at sea. The shark circled under the fishing boat a few times before leaving, which was a false alarm. Chu Yao and the others chose a relatively safe route. There were usually ships passing between the two places on this route. Unless you were unlucky, you didn't have to worry about your safety. The ship sailed at sea for almost a week, and in the early morning of the sixth day, a land appeared where the sea and sky met, and they finally saw an island. The fishing boats were parked at the dock. The crew was busy with supplies. Chu Yao and Xiao Ran came to a small town on the island to check out the situation. This was the largest piece of Yaxiu Island, and it was also the main island here. The name of the town was Haika. There were no flying tracks, no robots, and occasionally you could see one or two cars parked on the side of the road. Simple 2- and 3-story houses were built around the streets. Compared to the bustling unyielding town, they were lagging behind the times. Chu Yao and Xiao Ran acted separately. She walked around the streets a few times and noticed that there were almost no young and old people with hunched figures behind. In front of the door of a small house, an old woman was squatting on the steps, her rough hands smoothing out the black stripes on the concrete floor neatly. She was drying something, it looked like seaweed. Chu Yao walked in and said, "Auntie, aren't there any young people on this island? Are you from outside the island?" "You're a rare visitor," the old woman replied slowly. "The young people have all left the island and gone to the city. Only us, the old man and the old woman. But I still have a grandson in the city." He lives on the beach over there. You can ask him if you have something to do. Thank you. Chu Yao thought that finding the young man could explain it more clearly. The city wasn't very big, and it didn't take Chu Yao long to find the beach the old man mentioned. A small wooden house stood tall on the mottled sand. Outside the wooden house, a young man was sitting in front of a drawing board. Chu Yao stepped forward lightly and noticed that the young man had a broken hand. His painting was finished, and he was currently sitting there looking at it. What painting? My lost dream. Chu Yao laughed. This person's words were quite interesting. She stared at the frame in the darkness. There were dots of colored light scattered around, which was intoxicating. It looked like a painting of a starry sky. Why do you say that? This largest pale white star is the nearest wandering star to us. The young man pointed at the drawing board with his good right hand with a brush. The other white star is slightly smaller. The dot is Lu Yexing, walking up. And the light blue dot is the bossing star. The brush in his hand slid all the way up. The red dot at the top, which is barely visible, is the Dragon Earth Galaxy, 2.7 light-years away from us. Chu Yao listened to him quietly. But I never knew about this. The young man put down the brush. When I was a teenager I also dreamed of this beautiful starry sky. What kind of people lived like this? But now I can count their names. The footprints of my compatriots are all over the stars, and the traces left behind are crowded in every corner. People sing for the pioneers, but forget the awe and respect in the beginning. At first, the spaceship opened the mysterious curtain of this starry sky, and it also destroyed people's dreams. The one-armed young man said in a youthful tone. Don't be depressed. The world is so big. Chu Yao replied from the side. Yes, the universe is so big. But the universe I see is the night sky in front of me. And only a painting can fit it. The young man suppressed his emotions, stood up, and reached out to Chu Yao. Yu Chen, the acting mayor of Haisha City. Which old man told you to come to me? Chu Xiao, the president of Mao Yi Company. Chu Yao shook hands with him. Are you the mayor? To be honest, I don't want to be the only one. Yu Chen smiled meaningfully. But as you can see, there are almost no young people on this island. And I am the only one who will be. They all went to the big cities in the country. Yes, the Yaxio Islands are too small, and this industry is the only industry, and there is almost no room for young people to develop. After the insect epidemic, the traditional fisheries were affected, and various factors under the influence, many people left. He skillfully collected the drawing with one hand. So if President Chu wants to invest, he must think carefully. Chu Yao laughed foolishly. I'm not here. It's worth investing. Yes. For sightseeing, I recommend a small island not far to the east. It can be reached by boat in a few minutes. From the highest point, you can see the beautiful coral reefs. I didn't come here for sightseeing either. Then what did you come here for? I came here to find a place. Chu Yao decided to go straight in. She took out her mobile phone and showed Yu Chen the marked map. Here. Yu Chen obviously hesitated for a moment. Why did you find this small island? Judging from his appearance, there must be something hidden. I found a treasure map in my hometown. Chu Yao lied slyly, and came here as soon as she opened her mouth. Yu Chen smiled, obviously not believing what Chu Yao said, picked up the scroll of pictures he had collected, and walked towards his cottage. Why, people don't go here. That's right. Yu Chen hurriedly walked out of the wooden house. It was designated as a restricted area, and you could ask any old man in the city to find out. Restricted area. Chu Yao was stunned. If it was decades ago, shouldn't it be the policy of Yalai Company? But now, Yalai Company is gone. No. Yalai. I forgot its specific name. The company and the people there have never had any contact with the main island. Yu Chen shrugged. If you have to figure it out, maybe we can go to the city library. Some materials from that year should be kept there. You are really a casual mayor. Chu Yao teased. Then, should we go there? Okay. I became popular in StarCraft. Chapter 225 Instructor. Chu Yao contacted Xiaoran, and the two walked into the library in Haika City with Yu Chen. The decoration here was not special. It was said to be a library, but it was actually a library, much smaller than an ordinary archive. The poverty in Haika City could be seen. Under Yu Chen's guidance, they spent a short time searching for the land title deed. The two parties who signed the contract were Nord Company and the mayor of Haika town 30 years ago. And the content should be the construction of a marine observatory on a small island in the northwest corner. Since then, this island has become the private property of the Nord Company, and the surrounding area of several kilometers has been designated as a restricted area. Nord Company. Chu Yao didn't know much about this company, and it seemed to be the weakest among the interstellar companies. After leaving the library, several people walked along the coast to the northwest corner of the main island. Through the seawater, everyone finally saw an isolated island. It was very close, visible to the naked eye, but the specific details were not seen. Chu Yao didn't use his senses. She was afraid of snakes, scaring them away. She wasn't afraid of the numerous golden core cultivators coming, but there might be nascent soul cultivators on this island. Although this possibility was very low, as long as it wasn't zero, she couldn't let her guard down, which was why she didn't use the demon eye magic weapon immediately. Chu Yao turned her head and looked at Gong Xiaoran. She felt a little excited, but now she seemed to have calmed down. What do you think? Chu Yao let out her voice. Gong Xiaoran didn't answer Chu Yao, but turned to ask Yu Chen. Mayor Yu, is there usually a ship from Nord Company coming here? Just call my name. Yes, about once a month, but they don't. They don't anchor on the main island, but stay near this small island for half a day. They come quite often. When was the last time you came? Think about it, it's been almost a month. If you want to contact them, you can wait a little longer. Of course. After receiving the confirmation, Xiao Ran sent a message to Chu Yao. Since they have for a large group of people, the resources on the small island alone are not enough. They need to be replenished. Do you want to go in? Chu Yao immediately understood her thoughts. You can't force the entrance. I think this island seems to be surrounded by high walls, and there must be guard posts. Then we'll wait for a few more days. Chu Yao nodded. All right, it's almost noon. Let's go have lunch together. Yu Chen invited the two girls. It seems that you'll be in the city for a few more days. Inside. The iron wall is several meters high. The small bluestone square is full of people. Most of these people seemed to be minors, mostly teenagers and girls. They were standing in an orderly row now, listening to a man lecturing not far away. At the far left of the first row, a girl stood quietly like the others. Her eyebrows and eyes were quite similar to Gong Xiaoran. It was Xia Tiankaiu. How long has it been since you were kidnapped here? Tiankaiu herself did not know. Special training day and night had quickly made her minor, and she had developed an appearance that even she could feel strange about. Unfamiliar environment, cruel choices. Since the day she was forced to be separated from her parents, she had no choice but to refuse. If she had not inherited her parents' stubbornness in her bones, she would not have lived long. When she was first brought here, she naively thought that her parents would definitely come to save her, but what she received were the ridicule from the people around her. Many of her friends were sold here by their parents, and one of them was their fate. It was impossible for many ordinary people to accept their fate before reaching adulthood, but these children had no choice. Parents and others as a nascent soul cultivator, how could they sell themselves? There must be a reason why they didn't come. That's right, that must be it. They will definitely come to take her out of this hellish place. This is the only hope in the young lady's heart. In order to train you better, I hired 3 special teachers from the head office. What are you doing in a daze? Hurry up and applaud. The applause was thunderous. And the applause of these youngsters became more and more enthusiastic. This matter couldn't be helped, whoever was slow would be whipped. Hearing the order from the headmaster, Tiankaiu clapped her hands together with the crowd, and looked up at the 3 new teachers in front of the crowd. They didn't look anything special, a woman and 2 men, both wearing the same uniform and sunglasses. I don't know if it was Tiankaiu's illusion, but the 3 women seemed to be looking at her inadvertently. She carefully avoided the other party's gaze and clapped her hands. A few years in the training camp had made her realize that being praised by the teacher was not a good thing. Seeing Tiankaiu's actions, the woman's body seemed to tremble, but no one noticed this small movement. Calm down, Xiaoran, it's not time yet. Chu Yao's voice rang in the woman's ears. That's right, 2 of the 3 teachers were the ones Chu Yao and Gong Xiaoran pretended to be. As for the real ones, I'll have to ask Yaxio, the shark at the bottom of the sea. I understand. Gong Xiaoran took a deep breath. Chu's actions almost broke her heart. What kind of life could turn an innocent child into this? I've checked the buildings here, and there doesn't seem to be any sign of a monk. There seems to be some strange fluctuations on the ground. Let me check. Chu Yao's words rang in Xiaoran's ears. Wait for me. News, then we'll send our ship closer to here. Xiaoran, are you listening? Yes. You repeat it. Wait a moment and tell me. The ship came here. It's after I checked the ground. Chu Yao sighed helplessly. Seeing her anxious appearance, she wanted to fly up to pick up her daughter. Okay, okay. Don't worry, I won't do anything out of the ordinary. During the voice conversation between the two, the teacher's words were about to end, and the man turned to look at Gong Xiaoran. It seemed that among the 3 new teachers, the woman was the most influential. Teacher Lu, don't you want to say something? The students are waiting. Hey, me. Gong Xiaoran was taken aback for a moment, back to the point. Tisk, what a hassle. Forget it, Xiaoran couldn't blame him for this. We've been sitting on the boat for too long. Teacher Lu wasn't feeling well today. Chu Yao, who was pretending to be a middle-aged man, stepped forward to help. Oh, that's right. I didn't think it through. The teacher patted his head and smiled shyly at Gong Xiaoran. Many staff are tired. Go here first. I'll arrange a place for you to stay later. Rest first. The man looked quite enthusiastic. It was a pity that if he hadn't noticed the panic in the children's eyes when they looked at the great teacher, Chu Yao would have thought that he was really a good person. Is Sister Lu still seasick? Why didn't you notice when you came here? Another male instructor said strangely, and they seemed to have no unity. Gong Xiaoran also came to his senses, coldly snorted and stopped talking. If you don't want to reveal your identity, distancing yourself is always a good way. The students quickly dispersed under the headmaster's order, and under his leadership, the 3 of them walked to the accommodation that had been prepared in advance. I became popular in StarCraft. Chapter 226 Sweet Autumn. Here. Under the instructor's leadership, the 3 of them got a new accommodation in a small 2-story building near the north side of the island. It seemed to be the tallest building on the island, and the backdrop of the high wall built around the island was very striking. The conditions are quite bad. But since you have promised the command center, you have to decide. As for the other places, you can go and visit them yourself. The instructor stood up to bid farewell and seemed to glance at himself unintentionally before. He was about to put down his phone. Chu Yao noticed his movements, found an excuse to return to the room, and used magic to leave the fake body. And the real body was hidden behind the instructor. He was rushing to his residence, and he was talking on the phone while driving, and Chu Yao heard the content clearly. Why did you ask me to bring students down again? I didn't bring it to you last month. 2. I have a goal to achieve. Did I speak too softly just now? I made you forget who the owner of this base is. The voice on the other end of the phone rang. A lot. Is it an old man's voice? Or have you been playing for too long and thought you were really the instructor of this group of children, Aaron? Okay, okay, you are the master, you are the master. Then what do you want this time, you savages? These items are rare. If you use it and miss one, you'd better keep it. In their mouths, the children in the training camp were like the same, items that could be consumed casually. If you want the old one, just one is enough. Don't let it get damaged. If you succeed, it won't be long before you succeed. Just one is better. Every time that old friend of yours says this word, I get tired of hearing it. Aaron pursed his lips. Soon, you will use all my top disciples, no need to care about your goals anymore. Is it so important to practice your ultimate moves? The headquarters soldiers or mine? The experiment is important, and she knows it in her heart. If you don't want to stay on this crazy island and die, then do as I say. Chu Yao heard several important words in the conversation, indicators, dead people, and experiments. Aaron hung up the phone with a curse, turned around, and walked towards the large building. The appearance of this building looked like a large warehouse, but it was actually a student dormitory. In the warehouse dormitory, several bunk iron beds were arranged close together, and it was the students' resting place. Without these bunk beds, the interior would still be spacious, but there were too many students, making the place very crowded and leaving very little room to move. Chu Yao followed Aaron into the dormitory invisibly. These children of all ages were chatting and resting in the dormitory. This might be a rare time for them to rest. But when Aaron walked into the dormitory, the slightly loud noises immediately stopped. And everyone lowered their heads in silence. The dormitory was so quiet that even a pin dropping to the ground could be clearly heard. Chu Yao narrowed his eyes. Anyone could imagine how afraid these children were of the headmaster in front of them. Aaron walked from the narrow side to the center. There was a wooden board here that divided the dormitory into two parts, the left side for men and the right side for women. It was very simple. He cleared his throat and said to all the students present, "Everyone over the age of 15, get out." The crowd was in chaos for a while. There were dozens of teenagers and girls. Walked up to Aaron shyly and lined up in front of him. There were 14 people in total, and Tian Kaiyu was one of them. Chu Yao noticed that some of the children were trembling and could not suppress the fear in their hearts. It seemed that they all knew the consequences of being taken away. Aaron's eyes swept across the faces of the 14 people and stared at Tian Kaiyu. Aaron's heart jumped, and when he thought that he was going to be taken away, he reached out to the person beside her, the little girl. Okay, it's up to you." He stretched out his big hand and grabbed the girl's arm without any explanation, and pulled her towards the door. Finally, the calm girl could not hold it in anymore, her emotions began to collapse, and she howled loudly. "Oh, no, don't take me away. Someone, save me. Yin. Chu." The girl cried and turned to look at her friend. The loud cries made all the students' hearts tremble, but they turned their heads away, not daring to look. Tian Chu clenched her fists tightly and bit her lips fiercely. It seemed that she wanted to get up quickly, but another woman beside her grabbed her arm. "I'm so annoying, don't cry." Aaron's face turned fierce, and he pulled out a whip from his back, about to hit the girl in front of him. "Stop!" As the whip was about to fall, a cry stopped Aaron's actions. Tian Kaiyu finally broke free from the girl beside her and stepped forward. "No." The girl named Yin looked desperate. "Take me away, don't be shy Xiao Ke." Chu, woo. The girl named Xiao Ke had tears streaming down her face, and broke away from Aaron's hand in a daze, turned around and hugged him. "Sweet Autumn. It's fine, go back quickly, you should be happy for me, maybe I'll leave. But do you want to replace her?" Aaron had an indifferent expression like he had seen this kind of drama before. "Alright, let's go quickly, don't waste time." Tian Chu's eyes showed determination, she pushed Xiao Ke towards Yin, and waved goodbye to both of them with a smile. When she turned back, the smile on her face turned into tears at the corners of her eyes. No one saw this scene except Chu Yao. Tian Chu's words merely comforted the two of them. The headmaster was often taken away by someone. No one knew where the person taken away was. The only thing was that the person taken away would never return. Wanting to save her partner meant that she had the presence of mind to die. Alas, it was not smart. Chu Yao sighed and shook her head. She did not agree with Tian Chu's self-sacrifice. In her opinion, it was too imprudent. However, who created Xiao Ran's daughter? They were very similar. Just as Chu Yao was about to follow, a roar came from her ears. "Chu Yao! Watch out for my daughter, or I will never end up with her." Although Gong Xiao Ran was far away from the headmaster's residence, she still kept an eye on her, observing the events here and there. The voice came from Chu Yao's earphone. "Don't worry." Chu Yao's voice made Xiao Ran feel more at ease. "But how did you find me? Don't worry. If anything happens to Chu I follow me, nothing bad will happen, don't worry." As she spoke, Chu Yao quietly followed behind the two. She wanted to see what Nord Company was doing on this small island. I became popular in StarCraft. Chapter 227, Bonding. Chu Yao followed the terrified Aaron and Tian Kaiyu to a building in the center of the island. The room was like a pavilion, closed on all sides, with a cylindrical elevator inside. "Go straight after the end." Aaron didn't say anything nonsense and gave Tian Kaiyu a straightforward order. Chu Yao followed her and stood in the center of the elevator. After Instructor Long activated a few switches on the outside, the elevator quickly sank. He didn't go with them. Chu Yao could feel the uneasiness and fear in the little girl's heart, and cast a meditation spell on her thoughtfully. The elevator seemed to lead to a very deep place. After walking for 5 minutes, Chu Yao realized that they had arrived below sea level. The elevator finally reached the bottom with a humming sound. In front of her eyes was a seemingly endless dark corridor. The long tube lamps on both sides of the iron walls flickered with a faint blue light, which looked very terrifying. Tian Chu seemed to have turned into a small stone, and hesitated on the spot. No wonder she was still young. What are you doing? Come here quickly. An old man's voice came from the other side of the corridor. Tian Kai retracted her courage and stepped towards the corridor. The old man seemed to be very anxious. Before Tian Kai could walk past, the man stepped forward and grabbed her arm with one hand. Ah! She was shocked and tried to resist, but the other party was too strong. The struggle was futile. The old man dragged himself into the innermost room. Finally, Chu Yao saw the old man's true form. His bald head had no hair left, the fluctuations of life on his face were twisted together, and the corners of his eyes were turned up, making him look very terrifying. He was very strong, with a height of 1.9 meters, but he could not feel the fluctuations of mana in this person, which made Chu Yao feel relieved. She followed closely behind the two, and soon arrived at the old man's residence. Walking out of the corridor, he saw an empty circular hall. There was a very obvious facility in the center of the sphere. It was hard not to notice. It was a large glass cylinder, and a green liquid was slowly flowing out. Inside the liquid, a naked child was curled up in it, as if in a deep sleep. Chu Yao could not feel his power. This cylinder was very wide, and it took almost 3 people to wrap around it. Around it, there were all kinds of musical instruments and computers on all sides, and the files on the table were piled up like a mountain. Chu Yao saw something familiar in these tools, such as a brain computer. A computer. The book on the table under the musical instrument was accidentally opened. Chu Yao glanced over and saw some interesting words. In-depth conversation with Professor Lei, record, quark-level spiritual power research, cultivation techniques and spiritual roots. A light flashed in Chu's mind. Yao. After arriving at Lingyuan and the Third Continent, everything that had happened quickly flashed through his mind. Lian Jining, the Iron Dome, the blood of the visitors, the doctor, the puppeteer, the human experiments. Finally, all the scattered clues converged into a clear line, and the end of this line all pointed to here. Chu Yao had a premonition that she would get the answer she wanted here. Tian Kai stood there in shock, already stunned by the scene in front of her. The old man did not pay attention to her at this moment, but was adjusting some equipment. After he finished adjusting the musical instrument, he suddenly turned back. And his ghostly eyes looked at where Chu Yao was. How long do you want to watch? What? He looked back, but there was nothing. There. You found me. Chu Yao's figure appeared with that voice. Now it was seen through, there was no need to hide it anymore. Tian Kai looked at this scene in shock, her 2 small eyes widened, she was too scared today. Invisible. The old man looked at Chu Yao calmly, as if looking at a dead object. It's so calm. Chu Yao smiled slightly. As you said, I am a 3rd-level spiritual master, and you are not afraid. It's just a special experiment, why should I be afraid? The old man's smile was very scary. Everyone who meets me said that, unfortunately, they all fell under my sword. Hi. The old man's eyes stared. As if he was pondering something. You killed Lei Jining. His surname seems to be Lian. Chu Yao continued to smile. Who are you? The old man's voice was low. Before you ask for the woman's name, why don't you tell me your name first? Chu Yao turned her wrist, and the Zhuang sword was already in her hand. Only a 3rd-level spiritual power doesn't deserve me to say my name. Whether you are a spy of Bo Shui or Hickson, since you have already sent yourself to the door of the house, don't let me be ruthless. The old man quickly snapped his fingers, and the path he came was immediately blocked by a metal door, and an invisible pressure penetrated Chu Yao's heart. Her spiritual power began to slow down. Soul Lock Matrix, there really is such a trick. Can you guys change something new? Chu Yao looked at it normally, and was not afraid of the other party's methods. Interesting. The old man did not move, and looked at Chu Yao who was holding the sword with amusement. This is the first time I've seen a psychic who isn't afraid of the Matrix. The two of them seemed to have a chance of winning. Only Xia Tian Kai was standing in the corner. Rishi trembled and watched his master talk. Do you want to avenge Lian Jining? I don't have a deep friendship with him. The old man was very calm. I admit that his research is very valuable. He is a thoughtful person. It's a pity that he got lost. What are you guys researching? Longevity? Immortality? Eternal life? The old man snorted coldly. That's just the first step on a great journey. Your ignorance adds some credibility to your explanation. You are as arrogant and conceited as any researcher I've ever met. Chu Yao had never been weaker than anyone else. Isn't this nothing more than a dirty human experiment? Stuffing such a powerful force into a stupid brain yours is so reckless, you don't understand all this. The old man opened his arms and looked at the jug beside him. Look, this is the most advanced spiritual technology. With this, heaven and man will enter a new era. Someone said the same thing to me a while ago. Chu Yao danced the sword flower. Unfortunately, he didn't have the chance to witness the next era. Compared to this, there are other things I care about. You are obviously a member of the Bloody Alliance, but your actions go against their purpose. So what are you giving? Who is working? The Blood Alliance? Nords, or, the Vanished Alliance of Heaven and Man? I became popular in StarCraft. Chapter 228 Factor. The old man was silent for a long time, then quietly said. I wanted to save you, but now I have a reason to kill you. Don't be angry. Chu Yao smiled and spread her hands. It seems that I'm right. The Blood Alliance that is good at infiltrating other organizations will also be infiltrated by others. This is really a secret. Seeing the old man's expression, Chu Yao knew that he had guessed right. She was inspired by the previous battle. As the executioner of the Blood Alliance, the puppet master was going to punish the doctor. If Chu Yao didn't stop him halfway, his next stop would definitely be this small island. And the list was proof. According to the puppet master, the monks in the Blood Alliance were extremely hostile to the heavenly gods. How could they tolerate someone in their territory experimenting on monks? How this old man joined the Blood Alliance was unknown to Chu Yao. But one thing was clear. His actions were completely opposite to the Blood Alliance. He was very familiar with Lian Jining, and Lian Jining had close ties with the Steel Dome company behind it. To put it simply, Chu Yao's thoughts were becoming clearer and clearer. The immortal war was endless. This protracted battle had lasted for thousands of years. It was like a never-ending dance drama. It was still being performed among the many galaxies. It was just that the battle on the surface had become a competition in the dark. It used to be the ruler of the heavens, the high-level sects, but now, both parties are the rich and powerful interstellar corporation and the bloodline is widespread. Alliance. Then what's in that jar? Don't tell me it's the nascent soul you researched. National soul. The old man sneered at Chu Yao's words. Psychopath, you don't have superhuman abilities but don't know how to find out the source. No wonder you ended up in the withered end you are now. Forget it, you're going to die soon, I'll let you die, understand? I want to hear more about it. Chu Yao's left hand casually brushed the ground behind her head, and an invisible black shadow circled around her mouth and flew to Tian Kai's ear. Try to hide in a corner as much as possible, don't be afraid, I'm your mother's friend. Tian Chu's desperate eyes finally recovered their spirits, and she nodded vigorously. I know your realms, Qi Refining, Foundation Establishment, Jindan Beginning Spirit, and Supreme Transformation Spirit, which correspond to the 5 levels of spiritual power. It's a pity that you know how to cultivate with one mind, but you've never thought about it. It's the essence. The essence of cultivation. Chu Yao listened with interest as the ordinary person in front of him talked about the internal matters. What is Shinic energy, and what is spiritual energy and aura in this world? The monks who think you are high and tall, have you ever bent down to study the structure of matter in detail? It's no different if you are tall. According to physics research, quarks are the smallest fundamental particles and units that make up matter. To put it bluntly, they are fundamental particles that interact strongly and cannot be divided again. This is the consensus of the academic community. The man said. As he spoke, he continued to operate the computer, apparently not paying serious attention to Chu Yao in front of him. You shouldn't act rashly. However, the scholars of Longian have broken this consensus. The old man stepped away from the keyboard with both hands. The subatoms were guided, arranged, deconstructed, and transformed. And it was something unimaginable. The magic for your cultivators will appear on a macro level. Its name is Factor. Factor. Chu Yao repeated this unfamiliar word. And the reason why your cultivators can resonate with it is because the physiological structure of your body is different from ordinary people. The mutated gene called chain sequence, also known as the spiritual root in your body. There are many limitations to the research on spiritual power. Once upon a time, like the people in Longian, I was afraid of the limitations of the alliance and was forced to stop the experiment. The old man gently stroked the side of the barrel. With his palm, it was like looking at your child. But now, it's different. The alliance of heaven and man has become history. The Great Council has lost control of the galaxy outside the Dragon World. And my great genetic engineering can finally continue. Look, this is the world. The most excellent masterpiece. The old man's voice turned high-pitched, looked at the experimental product in front of him, and shouted at Chu Yao. With gene editing, I can create a new life. He will surpass both heaven and man and gather all living beings in the universe. Ability. And now, only the most important step remains dash. His gaze suddenly turned to the trembling Xia Tiankaiyu. As long as I follow this step, I will be able to perfectly realize the transfer of the spiritual root, and create a true newcomer. Creating a newcomer, so what? Idiots. The old man kept sneering at the group of monks. Give me an understandable example. As long as we explain the principles of causality and logic, the mass production of fifth-level psychers out of thin air. And this is only a small part of the potential of a newcomer. The era of cultivators has passed, and now is the era of technology and celestial beings. And while a pioneer of this era will create a new life, a new era, and a new civilization. Do you think you are a god? Chu Yao swung his sword at Tiankaiyu. What is a god? I will surpass a god. The old man clasped his hands behind his back. Do you have any final words? I will give you my words. Old man. Chu Yao's eyes gradually sharpened. She pushed Tiankaiyu beside her far away and jumped in front of the old man with a terrifying purple sword in her hand. It seems that I forgot to tell you my family name. The old man did not move. Suddenly, numerous square gaps appeared on the wall around him. 8 long mechanical arms shaped like chains shot out from the gaps with a violent grinding sound. In front of him, 4 more voices called out to Chu Yao from different directions. Fireman, remember this name. He will become a legend surpassing Bane. Chu Yao, your god. Chu Yao jumped up vigorously, dodging the 4 giant mechanical hands that were slamming in. The spiritual power in her body could not be reversed for a while, and this jump was all her body's original power. As she jumped into the air, her head shook slightly, and 3 black shadows flew out from the small golden bag tied behind her head. Twisted around her fingertips instantly. With a flick of her hand on the storage bag, a mechanical backpack appeared on her body. Micromech. Fairman squinted, obviously not expecting the other party to have such a method, but he did not panic, but lifted the cloak on his body violently. Chu Yao finally realized why his body looked so big. Fairman was carrying the same pair of mecha backpacks. I became popular in StarCraft Chapter 229 Scene Change. As Chu Yao's body was covered in the fiery red mechanical armor, Fairman activated his mechanism at an extremely fast speed. The silver-gray metal flowed on his body, instantly turning him into an iron puppet. Coupled with his height, he felt a sense of oppression. The two punched each other in midair, invisible shockwaves dispersed, strong winds, and piles of papers were nearby. The reckless battle was on the line, both sides retreated half a step, but neither side had the upper hand. However, Fairman still had a number of robotic arms to help them, these twisted iron creations floating in midair, like twisted snakes, frantically rushing towards Chu Yao. Under the obstruction of these mechanical arms, Chu Yao could not get close, so he could only continuously increase the speed of the mechanism to temporarily avoid it. She deliberately chose a direction away from Tiankaiyu, trying not to affect her. The blood butterfly mechanism that was running extremely fast left an after-image in the laboratory, and the mechanical arms followed it like shadows. The fire along the path Chu Yao walked again and again like a sea wave, and a terrifying roar echoed in the room. The momentum was not small, but neither the floor nor the walls had any cracks. The building was made of an unknown and very strong material. After dodging the 11th attack, Chu Yao swung her right hand. White light gathered at the tip of her finger, and she rushed forward at lightning speed. The target was not Fairman, but the biological culture tank behind him. The stationary Fellman finally moved. With a light jump, he stopped in front of the culture tank and directly blocked the laser with his body. That's a good idea. His low voice came from within the robot, accompanied by an inhuman electric sound. Your combat experience is also very valuable. I will keep it well after pulling it out. Fei Erman had not activated the shield yet. Repeatedly, and the laser left a small white spot on his mechanism, which did not hurt at all. The mechanical arm attacked fiercely again. This time, Chu Yao did not hide. The bullets on his shoulder and back were shot open amidst the sound of the mechanism. And dozens of small missiles flew out and violently hit them. Finally, the attack of these mechanical arms was blocked. Two arms stopped in place under the bombardment of missiles, trembling stiffly under the electric light and sparks, and one was directly smashed. Chu Yao did not put away the bullets at all, and now was not the time to put away. Numerous missiles dragged grey and white smoke and roared towards Fairman's body. Facing the countless missiles, he crouched down slightly, crossed his arms, and thick protective armor appeared around him. Small missiles violently exploded on the shield, and his body was surrounded by thick smoke. The smoke dissipated, and the color of the protective barrier also faded a lot, but Fairman's body was still unharmed. That's all. His tone was a bit cold. Chu Yao did not answer. She spread her hands together and rushed towards Fairman while releasing the laser. It seems that you are obsessed with me at close range. Fairman moved his wrist. Then give it a try. Chu Yao was shocked, and while she was thinking of a countermeasure, Fairman disappeared before her eyes. She didn't even have time to activate the shield. An unparalleled force of thrust came from the left abdomen, the violent impact pierced through the outer wall of the mechanism. Chu Yao's body was thrown away with a tremor, and her side was hit hard on the wall. Is the top scholar's mechanical equipment comparable to this third-rate product? Fairman felt very relaxed and joked, knowledge is power. Xia Tiankaiu was hiding not far from the battlefield. She saw everything in her eyes, and she couldn't do anything right now. She could only quietly encourage Chu Yao. Come on, big sister of the mechanism. She raised her hand and fired several laser shots, which Fairman easily dodged. That's all. His tone was sarcastic. Of course you are a stupid pervert, without spiritual power, you have nothing left. Everything was burned, golden light and smoke formed into a light curtain. This trick really worked, even Fairman could temporarily avoid the edge, and the energy of his protective shield was low. That's not how to use machinery. Fairman shook his head. You talk too much. Chu Yao picked up the robotic arm that was left on the ground and threw it towards him. The price of pursuing more firepower is sacrificing defensive capabilities. Fairman raised his right hand violently and grabbed the severed arm that had hit him directly in the air. He squeezed his hand hard, and his fingers were squeezed inward. Then, the severed arm, no matter how hard Chu Yao exerted force, would not move. Chu Yao resolutely let go. The opponent's strange power was beyond imagination. If he did not let go, he might be thrown away. As expected, Fairman easily threw all the robotic arms to the side, as if he was throwing a ballpoint pen, without speaking clearly. Defense is the best offense. Fairman charged again, and the excessive acceleration made him seem to be on the move. Chu Yao opened the mechanism's protective cover, and in the next second, the rain fist mercilessly smashed the transparent cover, and it seemed like hail was falling down in front of Chu Yao. Fairman's robot abandoned many of the long-range methods as he had said. And the attack was not showy but simple and effective. Chu Yao's shield broke shortly after, and her fist slammed into her body. She dodged and tried her best to fight his attack. Both of them were wearing high-tech mechanical suits, but they started fighting in the most primitive way. The battle was quickly decided. Chu Yao's reaction and experience were not weak, but the opponent's mechanical bullets were too hard. His fist smashed Fairman's body like throwing a pebble into the sea, and there was no response at all. In the battle for more than 10 minutes, she finally couldn't resist, and she fell to the ground as soon as the frame was released. Xia Tiankaiu covered her mouth anxiously not far away. She saw Fairman holding Mother's friend with one hand, squeezing his neck, and his limbs hung awkwardly. Your skills are too clumsy. Fairman looked up at Chu Yao in his hand, and there was no cold expression on his mask. Ahem. Chu Yao cleared his throat hard. You talk too much. Didn't you hear that sentence? The villain died because he talked too much. Do you think you are on the side of justice? Looking at the dilapidated mecha on Chu Yao's body with interest. I may not be, but you are not. If his eyes could see through it, he must have seen Chu Yao smile under the mask. Suddenly, a group of wandering ghosts appeared from her body, and the two cornered people were both covered in black fog. What? Fairman was shocked and was about to let go and retreat. Xiao Shi. I became popular in StarCraft. Chapter 230 Gu Art. The next second, these spirit images appeared. They were about to disappear, but there were so many that it seemed endless. Under their cover, Xiao Zi emerged from her body, instantly piercing the mechanism on Fairman's body and smashing him. AHH. Fairman let go of Chu Yao's hand with a cry of pain, and his body seemed to be frozen in place. This is the price of arrogance. Chu Yao fell to the ground lightly. Except for the cracks on the mechanical equipment that looked a little scary, there were no serious problems. Xiao Ziyi was like a hockey puck, boiling in his body, rushing through his internal organs with icy cold, melting and dissolving everything in his body. Damn it! CYG. If it were an ordinary person, his life force would have been destroyed by now, but Fairman seemed to still be able to move, and he staggered towards the device that looked like a refined table. How could Chu Yao make his wish come true? She took the first step, shot the laser in her hand, and blasted all the needles with liquid medicine on them into pieces. This was her last shot, and the last straw that crushed Fairman. Fairman's outstretched hand stopped in midair, his body beyond recognition. In the last moment before he died, he looked at Chu Yao with a trembling look. You will regret it. Prepare to receive the wrath of Steel Dome. This was the last ruthless sentence he said, and then he froze. The moment Fairman's life force disappeared, the mechanical suit on his body quickly fell off, and the blue skin under the shell was exposed to the air, and he fell to the ground with a heavy impact. Chu Yao did not let up her vigilance. She picked up the broken iron pipe from the ground, stabbed him a few times, and waved her hand after confirming that he was no longer breathing. There should be a matrix release switch nearby here. After looking at the tools in the room for a long time, she finally found something similar under the cultivation tank. After the spiritual energy in her body returned to normal, Chu Yao released the robot installed on her body. Heh! Chu Yao let out a long sigh of relief. This was truly a fierce battle. Without the blood butterfly mecha and the ghost sack, she might not have been able to win. However, it still required quite a bit of effort. It had been a long time since I had felt such incredible pressure in a battle. It seemed that the last time was when I faced a robot controlled by a baby. More than half of the machines in the room were destroyed, but the keys seemed to be intact. Chu Yao walked to the computer with the screen turned off, trying to copy those important files. Light footsteps came from behind, and Tian Chu tiptoed towards Chu Yao's back. Ah, I almost forgot about this little girl. Chu. Aunt Chu. This sentence poked at Chu Yao's wound just now. Call me big sister. Chu, big sister Chu. Tian Chu said cautiously. You are really my mother's friend, right? Is she okay? Chu Yao really wanted to say no, but since she called her younger sister, I still didn't care about her anymore. Yes, don't worry. Your mother is fine. She's staying. Chu Yao took out the data cable and mobile hard disk from her storage bag and skillfully controlled the computer. She had learned a bit from Xiao Huo. She's looking for you. Yes, that teacher Lu, right? Hi. Chu Yao turned around and looked at Tian Chu in surprise. This little girl didn't seem as stupid as she thought. How did you know? Guess how, my father is. Is he okay? Chu Yao was stunned for a moment when she looked at Tian Chu's eager eyes. She couldn't bear to tell him the truth. I'll have your mother tell you later. Let Xiao Ran tell her something. Tian Chu nodded, looking at Chu Yao's expression. It seemed that she had guessed something. Seeing that the other party was busy, so she obediently did not disturb him and stood still on the side, looking at the chaos around her. Is it time to go out yet? Looking back at the experiences of the past few years, it really seemed like a nightmare. While throwing out the information, Chu Yao started to think about what to do next. It was obvious that the Nord Company was an organization that the Blood Covenant operated outside, and Fairman's last sentence proved that he was an undercover agent of Steel Dome in Nord. Fairman was dead, and if he didn't want Steel Dome to know that he did, he had to cover up everything that happened on this small island. The best way is to disguise everything that happened here as Fairman's fault and let the Bloody Alliance take the blame. Chu Yao removed the mechanical backpack from his body, and after finishing the search, he transformed into a puppet master. Let's go out. Don't reveal my appearance for now. She warned Tian Chu, who nodded seriously. Chu Yao easily broke through the closed iron door, and the two walked through the previous corridor and took the elevator again. As soon as she landed, Chu Yao immediately frowned, and she smelled a strong smell of blood. With her eyes, Jin Dankai's consciousness swept across the island, and she saw an unbelievable scene. Regardless of Tian Kaiu, her body turned into a stream of light, and she instantly arrived at the old teacher's dormitory. Xiao Ran! Chu Yao shouted. What are you doing? In front of the teacher's dormitory, Gong Xiao Ran returned to normal. Her clothes were soaked in blood. The blood was not hers, but from the corpses that fell on the ground. She stood among the countless corpses, only the water sword in her hand was still clean as new, and behind her was a little girl in a dirty dress, shaking. Chu Yao remembered that the girl was one of Tian Chu's 2 friends. She checked the island again with her spiritual sense. Except for those children, the employees of Nord Company seemed to be concentrated here, and there was not a single living person left. They are going to attack this woman. Xiao Ran squeezed the words out of her throat. I can't bear it. But Chu Yao's head was dizzy. She thought that something unexpected would happen, but she didn't expect it to happen. For her own people, this went against her original idea that she had been trying to hide. Then you don't have to kill everyone. It didn't seem like something she could do. How could it be done? Use it. Chu Yao, why did you become such a coward? Gong Xiaoran's expression was extremely indifferent, and the water sword in his hand was pointed directly at Chu Yao. These bastards shouldn't have been born in this world. Death is their best choice. What a relief. Chu Yao was silent, and when the two looked at each other, she seemed to find a strange red light flashing in each other's eyes. As soon as she saw the red light, Chu Yao stomped her feet, and suddenly appeared beside Gong Xiaoran, pressing her palm on her head. Wake up! A powerful spiritual energy flowed through his body. Gong Xiaoran was shocked, and his eyes showed a puzzled expression. Hey, why am I here? You've been poisoned. A small worm the size of a fingernail, and when she squeezed it hard, the goo worm was crushed. This island really wasn't that simple. Where is the monster planning to attack us? Chu Yao's eyes were sharp. He used 5 points of mana to shout, and the sound echoed throughout the island. It's not a conspiracy, I'm just asking Gong Dais to listen to my heart. The voice came from above. Chu Yao and Xiaoran looked into the air together, and saw a man with a broken arm sitting on the high wall above, looking down at them. Chu Yao narrowed his eyes. Yu Chen. Another roll is finished. Please like and share. Thank you.